So a personal goal of mine is to create a space to build a private digital museum where all the items on display, they hold incredible value for me and others that I am come in contact with every day in conversation, or with you guys as well on YouTube. That's my goal. I want a space that informs, educates, and inspires. A place that I can visit to find and pull up a quote that would help someone see more clearly, or a place where I can go back and celebrate the good things that have happened in my life because I've collected stories, right? These personal stories that I'm able to share with others, and or maybe just revisit and remember. A place where I can see what themes are recurring in my life based on the notes that I'm taking, based on the quotes that I'm saving, based on the ideas that I've written down. I want to be able to have a central place for that. If what I said resonates with you and you desire that as well, then I think you'll enjoy this video. The best way for all of this to happen is to master the art of curation. I came across this quote in the book Rework, and when I read it, I started instantly thinking about personal knowledge management. Okay, so I want you to check this out. You don't make a great museum by putting all the art in the world into a single room. That's a warehouse. What makes a museum great is the stuff that's not on the walls. Someone says no. A curator is involved in making conscious decisions about what should stay and what should go. There's an editing process. I don't know if you caught that or not, but it said what makes a museum great is the stuff that's not on the walls. Like, just because it's easy to capture something with the tools that we have at our fingertips today, it's so easy to capture anything, right? But just because it's easy to capture doesn't mean that we should capture it. I'm not really a fan of being able to see other people's highlights on Kindle. I mean, I get the advantage and I get the point of it, but whenever I get to those, like, I'll even like stop reading some of the part of the book that I'm reading because I know there's a highlight coming or something like that, and so I'll zip over there to read what the highlight was. And of course, I'm wanting to highlight because everyone else has highlights because it shows, how many people highlighted it. But it may not even resonate with me. I'm just doing it because everybody else is doing it, kind of thing, right? Like, the museum that I'm talking about here is something special and unique. And so what makes a museum great, like it said, is what's not on the walls. What makes your personal knowledge management great is what's not in your PKM. So the question we want to ask is, does what you're capturing, does it need to be in your PKM, your personal knowledge management system, or this analogy that we're going with, does it need to be in your museum? Let's talk about what a curator is, right? It is a keeper or a custodian of meaningful collections. You are the keeper and the custodian of the ideas that go into your PKM, into your second brain, right? You are the guardian of knowledge. You are the champion of the sacred and the beautiful and the most interesting ideas to you. You are the steward of your personal thoughts. There's a responsibility there, a little bit of a weight to not just save anything. Like, we want there to be a little bit of friction to get into our idea museum. Before we continue, I want to give you a free gift for hanging out with me today and watching this video and supporting me on this channel. This is my free guide on how to take book notes and get those insights into your second brain. This is a short PDF guide, and by the end of this guide, you will have a simple system for highlighting your books, a mindful approach for adding content to your personal knowledge management system, a process for creating building blocks of knowledge for the future, and finally, a simple tip for making more connections inside of your second brain. If you want to check that guide out, the link is in the description below. The role of a curator is to acquire, care for, and develop a collection. When I read that, I immediately started seeing the associations with personal knowledge management here. To acquire is to obtain as one's own, right? And every time you collect an idea, it should be close enough to your heart and your mind that you would adopt the words, you would adopt the idea as your own. It needs to be something that resonates with you. Now, the tendency is to, because we can save things easily, is to save all the things, right? And I have that tension that I'm trying to manage, where I have these apps in my hands, on my phone, where I can easily save things. But because I can easily save things, I end up saving a lot more than I actually need to. So I go back and forth between this wanting to add friction and then wanting it to be convenient. So it's a tension I'm managing. But I do find, for me personally, that when I put more friction between me and saving an idea or jotting down some notes, I feel like the content that I'm saving is more weightier, and it helps me to not save as much, right? For me, and what it looks like for me is when I have a quote that I want to save, I'll actually, instead of like using a reader or Readwise, I will write down in my notes, I'll type it out, the actual quote, right? And I'll take the time to add the collections that that's connected with, and then other notes maybe that it's connected to. And so that friction helps me to know, okay, this is important, and I don't want to forget this. And then something else that I've been wanting to try, potentially, is maybe like a pocket notebook, right? Maybe you've tried this before, maybe you want to try this as well, is to get a little pocket-sized notebook, and then whenever you have an idea or quote, you write it down in this notebook, and then later in the day or whenever you do it, you transfer it over to your digital system. That seems like there's a little bit more friction, but maybe it'll work. So I'm going to try that. I think if you've already tried that, let me know. All right. So that's to acquire. And then we move on to care for. If all we do is collect, we are missing opportunities to dive deep with these ideas that we bump into and that resonate, that were important to us. In personal knowledge management, we can take care of the ideas by spending time with them and creating our own version of the idea. A simple way to do this is to have a dedicated time of reviewing your notes. It could be every day, it could be once a week. I don't know that I would go any more than once a week. If you do once a month, that could work too. But I feel like once a week gives you, especially if you're saving quite a bit, like every day, or writing things down every day, it kind of would pile up, I would think, if you try to do it once a month. But whatever works for you. Find a time to sit down and look at the notes that you've collected. And when you revisit them, when I revisit my notes, what I try to do is add the collection that it's tied to, which is the life area, the value. I have 3 or 4 values in my life. Maybe it's a thought theme, and I'll collect it to the note type as well. Is it a quote? Is it a literature note? Is it a meaningful moment? Is it, all those things. And then I'll also look and see if I can connect another note to it, right? So usually I will look at the note content or the quote and see, is there any other notes that I want to connect this to that I can think of? And sometimes I'll think of things automatically, but sometimes I can't remember. I can't remember everything that's in my notes app, right? So I'll start searching using keywords that are inside of the quote, right? And so as I'm searching, I'll find other notes that I've forgotten about that tie really well with this. Now, if it's a note that I've already saved, I'll actually go back in and look at the connected notes and then click into those notes and touch them up as well. If there's additional thoughts that I have that I want to add, maybe it's a perspective. And so I'm trying to constantly add things to the notes as I'm reviewing them. And so, but the key thing here is that you want to have a dedicated time to do that. For me, it's weekly on Sunday afternoons or evenings, and that works really well for me. Finally, we get to develop. So we have acquired and we have cared for, and then there's develop. And when I thought about developing a collection, I thought we cannot interpret or arrange ideas if we've not taken the time to understand them. And this is done in the care for, right? But once we have cared for them and we've understood them more, then we can start to begin to develop meaningful collections and not just surface level collections. There's the obvious areas and buckets that some of these notes can live in, and then there's the not so obvious areas, and the not so obvious areas are found whenever we spend time with the note and we understand the concept and we put it in our own words. And when we put it in our own words and we make our own version of it, then there's some other perspective change that we have and some other connection that we have. And all of a sudden, if you have these cluster of ideas that you have put in your words that you've formed, you have a new collection that you wouldn't have if you didn't take the time to care for them. And that's when the developing comes in, is those cluster of ideas. But if we're not careful, it can be easy to just say, okay, this is tied to health, this is tied to parenting, this is tied to creativity. I want to really work on that. I want to be able to find the non-obvious, the deeper connections, right? Not just the things that are right below the surface of the water, but the things that you really can't see that you have to discover by spending time with your notes and your ideas more often. I started off the video today with a goal of mine, and I believe that these three things are the path to do that: to acquire, care for, and develop. And this leads to creating meaningful collections, right? And all of this is in a sacred space that helps us remember the beautiful things in life and increase our creativity by making more connections. And then also helping others see from a unique and from a different perspective. I really value that in personal knowledge management. I value the ability to just quickly pull up thoughts that you have on a certain topic. And if you've been thinking about it quite a bit, you already have it, in your mind. You don't necessarily have to pull it up. But if you don't have it at the top of mind, it's there. And I love when in conversation with somebody, I can provide a quote. It doesn't even have to be my words. It can be a quote that I've saved that resonated with me, that while I'm talking to somebody else, they explain their story to me, and I share this quote with them, and that opens up their eyes. And it's because I took the time to save the quote so that I could remember the quote, so that I could share the quote, right? And then there's other times that I have ideas that I've put in my own words that I share that also provide a new perspective. And so all of this is happening because we are growing in the art of curation and being very selective about what's going on, about what comes into the second brain, into the PKM, so that what comes out is unique and special. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any thoughts or comments, please let me know in the comment section below in this video, and I'll see you next time.